Mr. Speaker, I just want to rise to support the move of the bill and to lend full support to this very important but small amendment to the National Disaster Management Act. And I do so as chairman of the National Disaster Mitigation Council. And I want to acknowledge as well my co-chair, the Senator Wendy Phipps, who is on the same side with me. It's a very minor amendment. It's a consequential amendment that is before the House, Mr. Speaker, that you would have heard from the mover and from the seconder. It basically establishes as Section 9 of the Disaster Management Act, 9A and 9B, the agency, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and also it establishes the National Emergency Operations Center. Mr. Speaker, the National Disaster Management Act was first passed into law as Act Number 5 of 1998, and it came into force on the 1st of June 1999. It comes out of a national disaster plan, St. Nevis disaster plan, that would have been prepared way back in 1999. But there is quite a bit in that national disaster plan, that strategic plan, that has worked as public policy and has not really been incorporated in the Act itself. And as the mover of the bill has intimated, during the next quarter, in the new year, we will be coming back to this Honorable House to update this Act to ensure that there is a proper legal framework, a legal underpinning of the work that is done by NEMA and the operating center that is activated from time to time. Disaster management in St. Kitts and Nevis falls under the control of the Prime Minister, and he, from time to time, will identify cabinet ministers to head a mitigation council, a disaster mitigation council, that meets from time to time to review any form of disaster in St. Kitts and Nevis. The council, the mitigation council, is an important council and has some 10 committees, subcommittees that are intergovernmental and have embedded in them as well certain members of the private sector. With any disaster, normally we have seen, especially during the hurricane months, the Mitigation Council will meet to ensure that they are properly established, that that everything is in order. And I would want just for quickly to indicate who all form part, or what all committees are forming part of this national disaster structure. There would be an education and communication and warning subcommittee, a medical and public health subcommittee, a Housing and Shelter Subcommittee, Search, Rescue and Initial Clearance Subcommittee, a Utilities Subcommittee, Welfare, Relief Supplies and Shelter Management Subcommittee, a Damage Assessment and Needs Analysis Subcommittee, a Foreign Assistance Subcommittee, Transport Subcommittee, Environment Subcommittee. It is embedded at NEMA at Limekeel, and the office, which falls under the Ministry of National Security, would lend administrative support. NEMA has a number of district managers, district management committees, where we have volunteers who do yeoman service in terms of disaster. It was important for us to put this into this act, to amend the act to include the work of the NEOC, as we refer to it in terms of the work being done by the National Task Force as it relates to COVID. NEOC is activated when there is an impending disaster or when there is a disaster. If there is a hurricane that is set to come out of the Atlantic, the NEOC is activated, the subcommittees meet, and plans, preparations are put in place to be able to cope with any untoward disaster that may happen to our nation. It may not just be hurricanes. I think the member for number 11 made the point that tsunamis, earthquakes, any form of disaster would find that NEMA would respond. Just last week, when our country was deluged with rain, there was an unfortunate incident at Fort Tyson at Frigate Bay where there was slippage of land. NEMA would have responded with the emergency services. There can be rock slides, there could be landslides, there could be flooding. NEMA responds. And this just reinforces the importance of having a proper legal framework when this happens. The National Emergency Operating Center is critical to this, and so it was important to have this done as a consequential bill to the COVID-19 Prevention and Control bill that is now an act. Mr. Speaker, I would want to wish it safe passage to this House with those few words. May it please you.